Coming up, the coronavirus. With confirmed cases and deaths on the rise, health officials are on high alert. Some say the economy perhaps on the brink of recession. Here in Indianapolis, Roche Diagnostics doing its part to help, making global headlines with the first shipments of some 400,000 test kits which received FDA fast-track approval. Roche leadership here to explain how it happened and what it could mean. Plus, Eli Lilly and Company is engaging in the coronavirus fight as well with increased testing. Also, who would have thought that distilleries would be part of the coronavirus solution? They are, including Hotel Tango in Indianapolis, where they're putting alcohol to work to combat a hand sanitizer shortage. Around Indiana, reporter Mary Rachel Redmond shows us what they're doing. And the city of Noblesville, like other communities around Indiana, following best practices to prevent the spread of the coronavirus. New Mayor Christianson is here to discuss the virus strategy and also his vision for the Hamilton County seat, including a $7.7 million downtown redevelopment project. We will have details on those stories and a lot more just ahead on this edition of Inside Indiana Business. Hello and welcome to Inside Indiana Business. I'm Gary Dick. The coronavirus pandemic has closed schools, shopping malls, canceled huge events, and forced businesses to lay off workers and implement emergency remote work strategies. Grocery stores, however, are working overtime to keep store shelves stocked. Now, the pandemic has forced U.S. automakers also to take emergency action. That's having a big impact here in Indiana. In Lafayette, Subaru of Indiana Automotive suspending production next week, and all associates will receive full pay during that one-week shutdown. General Motors, which has major facilities in Fort Wayne, Bedford, and Marion, smaller operation in Kokomo, shutting down production through March 30. Likewise, American Honda Motor Company shuttering U.S. production between March 23 and March 30, including its big assembly plant in Greensburg. Honda says the week-long shutdown will reduce production by about 40,000 vehicles. Governor Eric Holcomb has ordered all bars, nightclubs, and restaurants to close to in-person patrons. They may provide takeout and delivery services through the end of the month. Also, Simon Property Group, based here in Indianapolis, closing all of its 200-plus malls and retail properties nationwide until March 29. A lot to talk about. Well, the U.S. government is looking to the private sector for answers to the pandemic. No better example than right here in Indiana. After receiving emergency use authorization from the FDA, Roche Diagnostics in Indianapolis began shipping the first of hundreds of thousands of COVID-19 test kits. I'm pleased to welcome Roche Diagnostics Senior Vice President Randy Pritchard with more on a story that really did grab global headlines. Randy, welcome to the program.
Gary, thanks for having me.
We're a little bit further away than we are typically to keep our social distancing here, but we appreciate you coming in. Amazing story on how this came together so quickly in terms of the test kits, and Roche Diagnostics here in Indianapolis serving as the distribution hub, if you will. Talk about the normal process for these test kits are developed through and what you did in this case here.
Well, in most situations, our standard process from identification of a virus that we'd like to have a test for up to submission and then approval by FDA can be anywhere from an 18 to a 24-month process. In this situation, thanks to incredibly tight alignment with our research and development team, Food and Drug Administration, and many, many other officials, we were actually able to do that in 6 weeks, from the identification of the sequence of this virus to having emergency use clearance for this test.
Wow, amazing. And so many pieces and parts of the company came together to do this, from R&D, distribution here. I mean, this really was a national effort, right?
Really a national and international effort, right? Our scientists in California is our international center of excellence for PCR testing, and we're able to develop this kit and pull that together. Manufacturing on the East Coast. The instruments that actually run the test are designed and developed in Switzerland. The disposables from other locations. So really an incredible effort to bring this together in 6 weeks to have a product here ready to ship from the warehouse.
And this is a lot of product too. 400,000 per week now
Per
going
week,
forward,
yes.
right?
So last Friday, we started shipping our first kits, had those out early this week. We actually have just now have the second batch of 400,000. Those are shipping out today. So on a weekly basis, we'll be delivering about 400,000 tests to lab across the United States.
Yeah, this is a piece of the business, but also I would assume that for Roche Diagnostics and the workers there maybe is a bit of pride in being able to put something like this together in such a quick timeline.
It's, I mean, tremendous, right? I mean, that's what we do. And it's what we're very proud of. It's, you know, every day our job has an impact on patients, the healthcare providers who serve them. And so to be able to do something like this, we all see what's going on, you know, here in the United States and across the globe.
Right.
And to be able to bring a solution forward like this, it's certainly a tremendous amount of pride, but also we know there's still a lot of work to do.
And I think it underscores, too, the substantial footprint that Roche Diagnostics has here in Indianapolis, your U.S. headquarters for diagnostics here, 3,000 employees.
Absolutely. No, this is our commercial hub for North America, and 3,000 people dedicated every day to helping patients, you know, doing now what patients need next is what we talk about.
And at the same time, you, like other companies, are dealing and wanting to provide the best environment for your employees during the pandemic, and that's no small task.
No, certainly not. We've obviously been following this since the very beginning, and as appropriate, have implemented different levels of our pandemic plan. We are, of course, now at our red level. So we are at a point now on the campus where it's essential personnel only. Campus is locked, other than those people that are there, right? Obviously, our folks in manufacturing to keep our products coming out, distribution, so we keep shipping them, and the bare bones infrastructure that they need to be able to keep delivering.
Well, a major effort by Roche Diagnostics here in Indianapolis as a part of this attack on the pandemic. Randy Pritchard, Senior Vice President at Roche, thanks for joining us. Look forward to seeing you soon.
Gary, thanks for having me.
All right. Well, scientists at Eli Lilly and Company are really engaging in the war on coronavirus as well. Lilly forming a new partnership with the Indiana State Department of Health with support from the Food and Drug Administration to accelerate testing in Indiana. Business of Health reporter Kylie Valletta joins us now with more on that story. Kylie.
Thank you, Gary. Lilly executives say the pharmaceutical giant's labs that are typically dedicated to internal experiments are being repurposed to help the Indiana State Department of Health analyze tests for COVID-19, up to 2,000 per day with turnaround in 4 to 6 hours. The organizations say this is truly unique nationwide. It's the only large public-private partnership for COVID testing that they're aware of. Analyzing tests from healthcare facilities is the top priority, such as hospitals, ERs, and nursing homes. Lilly is also planning to pilot drive-through testing for the public in the coming days on Lilly property. One note from Lilly's leaders: Lilly makes insulin here in Indianapolis, and it is still making it during this health crisis. Insulin is a life-sustaining drug for people with diabetes, and Lilly says it will continue to provide an uninterrupted supply, so there is no need to buy ahead. And that's a message they wanted to get out to the public.
Yeah, amazing. From Roche Diagnostics to Lilly, really pulling out all the stops. This is going to be a big jump.
Huge jump.
In testing, right?
Yes, the Indiana State Department of Health, up until this point, they've done over 200 tests that they've analyzed. Lilly is going to be able to take that up to 2,000 per day once they reach full capacity. One note, though, that all depends on having access to reagents, which are chemical supplies they need to perform these tests, and those are in high demand right now.
And Lilly, this is a cost Lilly say that the company is bearing, right? No
Correct.
cost
They're
elsewhere.
doing this for free. They're not taking any funding from government agencies, hospitals, patients, insurance companies. They say they just want to help their Indiana home.
All right, Kylie, thanks. Great information. Thanks for joining us.
I'm Mary Rachel Redman at Hotel Tango Distillery, where they're making more than just craft spirits to combat the coronavirus. That story next.
Here's what's making news now around Indiana. More than 400 jobs coming to Wells County. Michigan-based automotive supplier Intiva Products says it will invest more than $42 million to lease, renovate, and equip a 260,000 square foot facility in Bluffton. The company plans to hire 419 workers over the next 3 years, with hiring to begin in the summer. In Northwest Indiana, a dry bulk transportation company headquartered in Lake County is expanding its Midwest footprint. Griffith-based Bulkmatic has opened a new bulk transloading rail yard in Kansas City with storage and transload capacity for more than 100 rail cars. Bulkmatic expects the move to mean about a dozen new jobs. The coronavirus forcing a Fayette County company to close its doors, putting more than 150 Hoosiers out of work. Wyzetta Home Products in Connorsville laid off its entire workforce, and in a notice to the state said market uncertainty related to the coronavirus pandemic played a role in that decision. In 2015, the state announced Wyzetta would invest $12.5 million to buy and refurbish a portion of the former Visteon plant. And Purdue Polytechnic High School in Indianapolis has found a home for its new location in South Bend. The STEM-based high school says it will occupy space in one of the former Studebaker buildings in the Renaissance District for the upcoming school year. Purdue Polytechnic plans to enroll up to 100 students this year. Well, with hand sanitizer shortages around the world, one Indianapolis-based distillery is in a unique position to lend a helping hand to those in need. Inside Indiana business reporter Mary Rachel Redmond has details.
Hotel Tango Distillery is mixing up a new cocktail.
And we knew that there was a need for hand sanitizer as there's a shortage because of the coronavirus.
So founder Travis Barnes has temporarily converted his distilling operation into a production line for the suddenly hard to find hand disinfectant.
We already had the equipment and some of the materials to put it together, so that was really the catalyst for how we got this product out.
The team at Hotel Tango tells me they're donating their entire first batch of these hand sanitizers to organizations in need. And demand for the hand cleaner has already reached beyond state lines.
We've gotten requests as far away as Florida, California. Troops overseas have requested it, so we're trying to fill the gaps wherever we can.
Once we get this initial batch out of the 2,000 bottles that we've already committed to organizations in Indiana, then we are going to reevaluate and see what we can do. If we can get more bottles in from companies in Indiana, we would love to send some donations outside of the state.
And perhaps most importantly, given these uncertain times, Hotel Tango's temporary hand sanitizer production has allowed the distillery to give its staff the opportunity to collect a paycheck.
This has opened up a way for us to move those employees into this production facility that we're opening up next door to label, bottle, put into boxes, all of these hand cleaners that we're producing. So it's another way of being able to pay those employees that currently can't do the job that they were originally hired for.
Mary Rachel Redmond, Inside Indiana Business.
Mary Rachel says Hotel Tango is still in need of more plastic bottles to continue to fulfill the demand for its hand sanitizer. If you're an Indiana company that can help, visit the website at hoteltangowhiskey.com. Well, next, how is the coronavirus impacting smaller Indiana communities? We'll check in with Noblesville Mayor Christianson on how his city is dealing with the crisis. Plus, he breaks down some big economic development plans on the horizon. Well, reducing the risk of COVID-19 in the community is a concern of cities and towns around Indiana, big and small. Noblesville Mayor Christianson is keeping City Hall and other city buildings open, with some employees there, though, working remotely. In addition to the coronavirus crisis, Mayor Jensen has also focused on the future and Noblesville's next chapter. He joins me now in studio with details. Mayor, welcome to the program.
Thank you so much.
First of all, the coronavirus situation impacting all of us, cities, towns, businesses, you name it. From a Noblesville perspective, what's been your focus with the coronavirus?
Surely, it's been front of mind for any local leader, any state leader. Our goal is to continue to listen to those public health experts at the state level with the state health department, Dr. Box, and here in Hamilton County, the local health department. Heeding their guidance, we went ahead and allowed some folks to work from home, as many businesses and government unit has done, but our goal is to keep City Hall open and reinforce the fact that our public safety folks, our frontline defenders of police and fire, are there ready to serve citizens as usual while maintaining our good social distance and other good practices.
You're brand new in office. Certainly didn't expect to be facing this challenge.
No, Mayor Ditzer didn't leave this in the transition report.
That's
here.
right.
Yeah.
But there is a lot going on beyond this, to be sure, in Noblesville. Noblesville's next chapter is really what you've been focusing on, your recent State of the City address. You talked about that. Give us a kind of a thumbnail on Noblesville's next chapter.
Absolutely. Well, Noblesville is the historic county seat of Hamilton County. So we're now looking, though, that what does our future look like? How do we continue to preserve what is great about Noblesville, our historic downtown, but how do we also look to enhance it? How do we look at new ways to structure our economic development in our city? How do we focus on public safety and really transforming how we tackle public safety in the city? How do we invest in wise ways with our infrastructure to enhance our north to south mobility, our east to west mobility? How do we talk about workforce development in all new ways? So that's all a big focus of our next chapter.
And physically changing with a number of pretty cool developments. One of them, the Lofts at 10th, a $7.7 million project.
Yeah, what we realized as we started talking with folks is that we really lacked for millennial and empty nester baby boomer housing in our downtown. So many folks now, millennials and empty nesters want the same thing. They want that 2-bedroom apartment or condo that is walkable to our downtown. Folks want that urban feel, but in a suburban community. So we're going to capture that with the Lofts on 10th, also with the Levinson in downtown.
And that's under construction
Under
now,
construction currently. So we'll increase a lot of our walkability and our livability in downtown Noblesville.
We talk a lot about that, but that's something that's very important, is this quality of place, connectivity, walkability, all very important to keep talent.
People want to live, work, and play in the same community. And honestly, Gary, with a 3% unemployment rate, nowadays companies are going to locate where people want to be. So we have to be that desirable community where folks can live, can walk to work, can walk to restaurants, all in the same central hub.
Yep. Obviously, in terms of economic development, Indiana has been on a roll from an economic development standpoint. An India-based company, Panacea, has announced plans for major investment there in Noblesville and lots of jobs as well.
We're excited. You know, we have great partnership at the state with the IEDC, with Governor Holcomb, went on a trade mission this fall to India, teed really up this opportunity for us. We competed against 15 different sites in the state, as well as sites in Wisconsin and Michigan. Panacea is going to be a $12 million investment. It's a medical diagnostic, cancer diagnostic company, 65 jobs, new to the city of Noblesville, average wage of $80,000 a year plus benefits, which is a huge boost to our local economy, a $12 million investment.
Yeah, all kinds of jobs that lots of communities are after. And that leads to workforce. You touched on it a moment ago, Ivy Tech Community College in the community there. But as you look at workforce and the ability to produce the kinds of workers these companies need.
You know, Gary, we have to do it differently than we did years ago. With such a low unemployment rate now, we have to make sure that we have different career paths for our young adults in Noblesville, and also then training for our existing workforce. If they want to skill up their workforce or skill up their individual skills, we have those opportunities. We have Ivy Tech. We have a state-of-the-art internship program with Noblesville High School and team. So we have to look at economic development completely different, and we're going to lead the way in Noblesville.
Lots going on, to say the least, in Noblesville, specifically Hamilton County in general as well. Mayor Christianson, Mayor, great to have you here. Look forward to having you on many times in the future.
Great. Thanks, Gary. Appreciate it.
Well, coming up next, more than 1/3 of Americans do not have dental insurance, and an Indiana company may be just what the doctor ordered for them. More on Plan Forward and its membership-based model. It's time now to go inside innovation, brought to you by Allegion, pioneering safety. Indianapolis-based Plan Forward works with dentists to create and manage in-house membership plans. The goal of the membership plan software designed for dentists is to help uninsured patients afford preventative treatment from quality providers. And with more now on the software and the business model at Plan Forward, pleased to be joined by founder Megan Lohman. Megan, welcome to the program.
Thank you.
The company now, Plan Forward, next month, I guess, will be 2 years old, so a young company that's gaining traction. Talk about how Plan Forward came about. How did it all start?
I worked with my co-founder, Jason Flanagan, in his practice up in Westfield, Indiana, and it was in 2013 when healthcare was changing, and we really had a need with a lot of uninsured patients who were confused by the options out there. We had a need to create an alternative solution. So that's really where the idea started, and with the appetite for this alternative solution, the plan just grew and it became difficult to manage. So that's where we determined that a software platform was well suited to handle it.
Really a significant portion of the population, adult population, does not have dental insurance, right?
That's correct. 33% of the adult population in the United States is dentally uninsured. Our senior citizens on Medicare, the gig economy, entrepreneurs, small business owners,
This is a technology solution to that, and I know Plan 4 has been nominated, I think, for a couple of Mira awards, so you're getting some attention from the industry as well. But talk about Plan 4, the software you sell directly to dentists. How does it work?
We do. We work directly with dentists to create a customized plan specifically to their practice. It's branded with their practice name, their information, their pricing and terms. We deliver the materials and do a team training so their team can advocate for their plan, and ultimately the software allows them to confidently grow this plan.
What do you attribute the traction, the success? I know the times we're living in now with the coronavirus, that really adds to this and maybe the interest of dentists in getting the software.
It does. I mean, our clients who have well-established membership plans have some peace of mind that they still have revenue coming in right now when many of their doors are closed to patients. And also those prospects are reaching out. We have had inquiries from everywhere across the country using this downtime to educate themselves on the value of these membership plans for their practice.
And the Plan 4, the software, you're not just selling to customers in Indiana, you're growing, right?
That's correct. We are fortunate that we are the preferred vendor of the Indiana Dental Association. So they evaluated multiple vendors, and we are preferred by the IDA, but we are currently operating in 6 states.
Okay, and about to come out with version 2,
That's right. We're working hard on launching version 2 of our software platform that'll go live next month. We're really excited about that. And just, gaining traction every day. It's thriving.
Plan Forward is a technology solution, a software that is addressing some real needs in the dental community. Megan Lohman, the founder of Plan Forward, appreciate you being here, and we look forward to following your growth.
Thank you very much.
Okay. Coming up, we head to Johnson County, where a nonprofit coffee house is making a big social impact.
People struggling with addictions need a friend more than anything else. That's why we see, for instance, AA, why it's been successful over the years, because it's a community. It's a place where people can connect.
Coffee House 5 co-founder Brian Peters is here to share more on his company's mission and how things have changed with the coronavirus pandemic. But next, businesses can find it tough to cut through digital clutter when trying to get their brands in the hands of consumers. The key? Bold innovation combining print with technology. That according to PFL. We'll have the company's secret to success next in The Innovators with Dr. K. Well, the combination of print and technology has fueled huge growth for America's first e-commerce printing business. PFL has a unique story with roots and connections that reach from Indianapolis all the way to the mountains of Montana. Dr. K and PFL Vice President of Sales Steve Brennan are here with the story. Dr. K, take it away.
Thank you, Gary. Appreciate that. Well, when this terrible pandemic clears, I'm sure marketing will be on the minds of many, many organizations. So we're really happy to have Steve Brennan here with us so he can talk to us a little bit more about PFL. So, Steve, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
I was, in your own words, so what is PFL? And then what do the letters stand for, PFL?
Yeah, PFL is printing for less.
Okay.
So we did start as an e-commerce printer in Livingston, Montana.
Okay.
We now are a full-blown marketing technology company, providing sales enablement and marketing automation solutions for our customers here in town in an integrated format. So through integrations through Salesforce and Marketo and Eloqua to help them work with their marketing automation platforms and be super effective and have radical results.
So the idea came about through the printing industry first, right? And then
Correct. Yeah, so what happened there was we got called on site to a customer about 6 years ago to help them with the direct mail campaign.
Right.
And as we were going through the process of filtering out what that was going to look like, it became obvious to us that through combining direct mail and marketing technology, we could combine those two together. And have an orchestrated approach and drive, again, results for our customers that they've never seen before.
And what's the unique innovation as part of your whole concept?
Yeah, the unique innovation is what we call the orchestration. So we want to make sure that people understand, and I think businesses understand direct mail can be impactful, but we also want to work with their digital marketing campaigns that they have going on. So it's the orchestration of those. When do you send an email? When do you send a display ad? When do you use social or display media that's out there? And then when do you incorporate a tactile touch like we have in front of us here that would go to someone's desk and set them apart? Because we're all inundated, Dr. K, as you know, with digital ads. All the time. You go to the gas station. I get on my elevator at Salesforce Tower. There's digital ads that are in there.
Exactly.
So really, what we're looking to do is, if the average American gets between 7,000 and 10,000 ads a day presented to them, how do our customers separate themselves by using tactile marketing automation that gets a message across and is not just a blast mail?
That's powerful. So the current market for this innovation, what have you got as your market?
Yeah, we have some of the fastest growing brands and companies in the nation right now, really worldwide, that are using us. So we're working with customers that are looking at 20% plus ROI to get this automation going. And get these brands get these packages in front of their potential prospects. So yeah, we're looking for those high growth companies that are looking to separate themselves and make sure that they send something that's personalized and relevant and timely. And it means something when that person opens it up, and then they can respond. There can be a call to action in there.
And I understand during this pandemic, you guys are in talks to help the community a little bit. Is that right?
Yeah, so we just talked briefly before the show that IPS has approached us. And we're looking to send school kits to the 30,000 plus students that are out of school right now. So again, direct mail can be used in many ways, but again, it's going to be personalized and orchestrated, right? And used in a way that is relevant to the students. So I'm getting 4th grade learning material, and it says, "Dear Johnny," you know, from Mrs. Red.
Your capital funding status with actual funding for your company now?
Yeah, so our latest funding round was just with Goldman Sachs. It was great to partner with a company like Goldman and the partners that they have brought in. So we continue to grow the business through again partnerships with that big investment round.
Besides the pandemic, what are the challenges you foresee going forward?
Yeah, so I think, Doctor, the biggest challenge that we have is business leaders understanding how to use direct mail in an orchestrated approach. A lot of what we see out there in the marketplace, people are blasting out, just sending stuff. Sending stuff doesn't work. If it's not tactile marketing automation and it's not orchestrated with your direct digital plans, it's not going to be as effective.
So as I do on each and every show, I give some prescriptions. Dr. K's prescriptions. So I came up with 3 nevers for a growing, innovative firm for you guys. The first one is never assume the loyalty of your current customer base, and take them for granted, which I'm sure you don't. Second is never believe that PFL is ahead of the competition, because as you know, the minute you think you're way ahead, they're right behind you. And the third one is never think that PFL is always the leader. You are a leader in the industry right now, without question, with your innovation. But you got to keep on innovating and doing the things you guys are doing. So keep it up, because it's impressive.
Correct. Thank you. And we look forward to the high growth that we have here in Indianapolis.
Fantastic. And where can our audience find you guys, Steve?
PFL.com.
Simple. PFL.com. Well, there you have it, Gary. Really a fantastic marketing firm that's doing some great things, even during this pandemic, right here in Indiana. Back to you, Gary.
All right, Dr. Kate, thank you. Well, something new is brewing in Franklin. The city now has its first coffee roaster, but it's providing more than just a cup of joe. The nonprofit's mission is to serve the community by paying for addiction and marriage counseling. Business of Health reporter Kylie Valletta has more. Kylie.
Thank you very much, Gary. Coffee House 5 opened its first location in Greenwood about 6 years ago and has provided $200,000 worth of free addiction and marriage counseling for people in the community. But demand has outgrown just one location, so its co-founders recently opened a second coffee house just a bit further south in downtown Franklin. More revenue means more people can benefit from its mission. Here to tell us more is Brian Peters, one of the founders of Coffee House 5. Thank you for coming to the show today.
Sure, thanks for having me.
Let's talk about first your personal experience and how that really gave birth to your first location of Coffee House 5 in Greenwood.
Right. This is not, as I tell people often, necessarily a path that I would have chosen for myself. But some 25, 30 years ago, when I was practicing law, my wife and I had just been married, and I was in full-blown alcoholism. I've been in recovery now for about 25 years, but at that time, in alcoholism, marriage was not in good shape, and eventually we got to the point where we actually thought we were going to divorce. But God intervened. We got into counseling, and after a couple of years, when we finally got to the point that we felt like we were going to make it, we literally had people start to show up on our doorstep and ask for help. At that point, we didn't know what to do other than share our story. But that's what then eventually led me at one point to be asked to join staff at a local church. I got more and more involved in counseling, marriage counseling, addictions counseling. And as I did that, I encountered this big barrier to counseling, which is cost. And so that's what drove us to come up with this idea of running a coffee shop to generate revenue and support and allow us to offer the counseling for free.
So you opened the Franklin location in early March. Tell us, why did you see a need to add the second location?
There are two primary issues that were driving us to increase our revenue. Number one, I counsel only with couples and individual males. I don't counsel with individual females. So we really have a need for a female counselor. The second thing, we often, again, I only do marriage and addictions counseling, and I often have the need to refer people for other forms of mental health counseling. Lots of people come to us because our services are free. When I have the need to refer them, they often can't pay for those services that they need. So we wanted to have a fund available to help subsidize costs of other types of mental health counseling.
So this will help generate more money. Less than 2 weeks, you were open in Franklin, and then coronavirus comes. What has it changed? How are you dealing with this now? Only carry out? I can imagine this is not something you're prepared for, but what has it been like?
It's been a whirlwind. Everything has changed, you know, especially as a coffee shop. You know, our big, what we try to do is create this environment that people want to come into and hang out in, and we can't allow them to do that now. And so that's really frustrating and disheartening. But we're doing the best. You know, we've been so encouraged just this week with our community and talking about supporting the local businesses, getting carry out from all of the businesses, which they're doing from us as well. So, you know, we're all in this together.
Right, we're going to get through it together. Indiana, of course, is, you know, experienced the opioid crisis. I think in general, there's also just a bigger emphasis on mental health. Did you see, you know, in the last year or so, has there really been an uptick in demand for mental health services, counseling, and things like that?
It's difficult for us to measure because of the growth of our operation, and as more people become aware that our services are free, we every year see an increase in demand. And so it's a little bit difficult for me to sort out whether it's a demand overall or just a demand, and I know it is a demand for services that are lower cost or obviously free, because again, you know, so many people who need help just can't afford it or don't have the insurance to cover it. But certainly with addictions, we're seeing an increase in need for addictions counseling. And that's only going to increase in a situation like this. You know, two of the big drivers of addiction are isolation and boredom. And those are big issues right now.
Right, absolutely. People are dealing with that in a way that we never have before.
Right.
All right. Thank you so much for coming to the show and telling us about your new location. And I know this too shall pass. And soon we'll be open and back to normal for you, hopefully.
Yeah. Thanks a lot.
Thank you. Gary, back to you.
All right, Kylie, thank you. Well, 1 month after closing the gates, the owners of Indiana Beach and Monticello are now hopeful for the future of the nearly century-old amusement park. California-based Apex Parks Group tells our partners at the Times of Northwest Indiana that potential buyers have expressed interest in reopening the popular destination as early as this year. The publication says a deal has not yet been made, but the decision to close Indiana Beach last month has led to potential buyers reaching out. Apex, which acquired Indiana Beach in 2015, closed the park and 3 others it owns in February, citing financial difficulties. Also making headlines this week, Indiana University President Michael McRobbie has selected Scott Dolson as the university's next director of intercollegiate athletics. Dolson has served as deputy director and chief operating officer of athletics at IU since 2009. He will succeed current athletics director Fred Glass, who announced his retirement in December. Prior to joining the athletics department, Dolson spent 7 years as the director of the IU varsity club. Still ahead, our insiders will sound off on some of the week's top stories. But first, one of the biggest impacts of the coronavirus. Well, it's forced many people to go from working in a classroom into unfamiliar territory, that of e-learning and working remotely. 1150 Academy Chief Education Officer Jonathan Hewer joins us with some advice on best practices. Well, the coronavirus has changed just about everything normal that we used to do, especially when it comes to work and school. The kitchen table has replaced office and school desks. There are challenges to remote working and learning, and in our Eye on Education segment this week, we look at best practices when it comes to operating at home with home as home base with 1150 Academy Chief Education Officer Dr. Jonathan Hewer. And Jonathan, welcome to the program.
Thank you.
First of all, 1150 Coding Academy that has been churning out some great graduates for the last number of years. Give us basically the thumbnail model at 1150.
Yeah, at 1150 we typically use a high-touch model where we teach all of the basic coding skills you need to get an entry-level job or all the cybersecurity skills you need to get an entry-level job in 12 weeks. So it's an incredibly intense experience. And it's been interesting replicating that experience online.
Yeah, I was going to say, you have experienced it firsthand going to the remote. Talk about that process.
Yeah, we saw this coming a couple weeks ago. And so when it was apparent that we needed to make the shift, we took a half-day pause, shifted everything over, and now we've been able to redo this in the online environment. And we get better at it every day. I think that something that's important to remember is we have a really good, very digitally fluent staff. And so it was a lot easier for us than it was for some other schools and districts and universities.
We'll talk about that and some of the things that folks should be thinking about, because you've got businesses on the one hand who have gone to a remote strategy. Some bigger companies, maybe a lot more of a seamless transition, but families with young people, kids at home, learning online. A lot of challenges, a lot of new things to kind of grapple with.
Yeah, absolutely. And one of the hardest things, for parents who may not be familiar with this is figuring out the difference between, are they struggling with the technology? Are they trying to make the connection? Are they trying to find the right button? Or are they actually struggling in learning, because learning is struggling many times and you have to go slower, faster, different ways. And so as everybody adapts to this new way of learning, it's difficult to figure out, is it an internet connection or is there a legitimate problem?
And as we were talking off camera too, you point out there really are a lot of resources that are available out there.
Yes, yeah, this is not a new thing. It's new to a lot of people, but it's not a new endeavor. Adobe has the Adobe Education Exchange for educators, so there's lesson ideas, there's plans, there's tons of stuff. Apple Swift is a great way to self-learn, so Apple Swift Playgrounds is great. I encourage people to check it out. And then, of course, as everybody just goes through this, we're offering our own boot camp next week online so that people can learn HTML and CSS and just really take advantage of this opportunity to learn. The resources are out there for everyone involved. We just all have to be a little nice to ourselves.
Yeah, and maybe this could be one of the few silver linings to this really awful situation, but more and more people getting comfortable with remote learning. I noted just 16% of college students were taking exclusively online courses as of 2017, but that number is probably going to continue to go up.
Yeah, and if you think about it right now, it feels like 100% are.
Yeah, right,
so
right.
That's 85% of both teachers and students that are all having to learn in this brand new way. Mm-hmm. And I think that a lot of people find that it is more challenging to learn remote, but the reality is there's good online classes and there's good distance classes, just like there's good in-person classes. So what everyone's got to do is they have to figure out how to learn in these new ways. Now, that being said, as we move forward to the future, move past our current crisis and struggle, it's a real opportunity for everyone to find all of these great resources that are out there for skill development and really have a way to continue the actual practice of lifelong learning instead of just saying, oh yeah, I'm a lifelong learner.
Yeah.
No, there's great resources out there now online, and I think everybody's, instead of binging Netflix, binge LinkedIn Learning or binge some of these other things that are out there.
Right, great perspective on e-learning and remote work at home. Dr. Jonathan Hewer is Chief Learning Education Officer at 1150 Academy. Jonathan, thanks as always.
Thank you.
All right. Well, coming up, our insider is getting warmed up to sound off on the coronavirus crisis and the impact on the Indiana economy. We will have that story and a lot more. Stay with us. Well, each week a group of insiders joins me to offer perspective on some of the week's top stories. This week sounding off on the coronavirus and its substantial impact on the Indiana economy. Plus, we'll take a look at the winners and losers from the just completed session of the Indiana General Assembly. Joining me this week on the Insiders, pleased to be joined by IndyPolitics.org publisher Abdul Hakim Shabazz. Also, Indiana Chamber of Commerce Senior Vice President of Communications and Operations, Tom Schuman. And we're set up in this age of coronavirus separately here, so we're keeping that distance between us this week. But gentlemen, thanks for joining us on the Insiders. Want to begin this week with winners and losers from the Indiana State House. Going to be talking a lot about coronavirus here. But Tom, I'll start with you. As you look at the Indiana General Assembly just completed session, your big takeaway.
Well, Gary, a couple of things. We reducing or increasing the smoking age from 18 to 21. That was a priority. Of course, federal action took place on that before the state lawmakers came in. So, but we need to go farther there. We need to increase the cigarette tax. We need to institute a vaping tax, so more to come in 21. Same with healthcare costs. Some initial steps taken, but even the legislators themselves admitted this is a long-term challenge, reducing those costs for employers and employees.
Abdul, as you look at winners and losers, or your big takeaway, really a short session, didn't seem to be a lot of hot button issues. Your big takeaway.
My big takeaway was actually toward the end, and how there was a lot of tension between both the House side and the Senate side of things, whether it was legislation regarding indigo that came out of the Senate, legislation regarding the Attorney General and how he could be removed from office if he lose his law license or be temporarily suspended, and how lawmakers got along so much on so many other things, but those two, there was not a lot of love lost between both the House and the Senate.
Yeah, Tom, I want to go back to you one more time to double check. I think you mentioned this, but the chamber has been so focused on health and health-related issues, smoking, vaping, those issues. You see those as real focus areas for the chamber and the business community going forward?
Absolutely. That'll be one of the areas, summer study and beyond. Energy costs. There was a lot of time spent on a bill this legislative session that didn't really end up doing a whole lot, which proved to be a good thing. But Indiana energy costs used to be amongst the top 5 or 6 best in the country. Now we're middle of the pack. Chamber's doing a study. General Assembly has a task force. So those are a couple areas that'll be the focus moving forward.
Obviously, coronavirus at the top of the news around the globe right now. Here in Indiana, lots we can talk about on this. Governor Holcomb, late in the week, extended the state of emergency in Indiana into May, closing schools into the 1st of May as well. Abdul, I'll start with you. As you look at impacts, so many major events have been either delayed, postponed, or in fact canceled. Lots of impacts on business. Your take as we're really getting into the heart of this situation.
Yeah, I think this past week or so, we are really starting to see what the impact of the steps that are necessary to mitigate the coronavirus, whether it is, once again, so many schools closing across Indiana between now and May, the fact, restaurants, bars, nightclubs, all that economic activity, and then what it rolls into, because remember, when people aren't out spending money, that's less money for the state coffers, that's less money for social services, and it's at a time when government usually needs those funds to help mitigate, some of the damages of these things. So I always say take it seriously, folks, because it is here, and we're nowhere near seeing the end of the light at the end of the tunnel yet.
Yeah, Tom, so many impacts on business when you talk about restaurants and bars closing down except for carry out and drive-through essentially. The auto plants, all of them closing at least for a short period of time. Malls closing. As you look at the business impact that is hit now, but could be going on for a while. Your take on where you see this going?
Well, a couple of numbers in terms of workers that the governor and his team shared. A year ago, about 3,000 people filed for unemployment during the course of the week. In 3 days, this past week, there were 22,000 people. Wow. And that's only going to multiply extensively as we go on. Again, you're right on businesses. Some of the relationships that take place, the supply chain, suppliers and vendors, the relationships there, contracts that are going to be impacted. You had Matt Will on talking about some of these impacts. They're going to be widespread, and what is so challenging is we don't know when the end date is. If we were sitting here looking at a 30-day period and then things were going to kind of go back to normal, we could deal with it, but we don't know when that turning point's going to be where things will start to return to normal.
Yeah, Tom, I'll start with you on this, but you had mentioned it off camera a little while ago that we're seeing businesses step up in a lot of ways. Certainly Roche with getting out these testing kits in record time, 400,000 a week producing, coming out of, from a distribution standpoint, Indianapolis. Eli Lilly and Company, the State Department of Health, combining to increase testing. Business in many ways, it's been nice to see folks collaborate and step up here.
Absolutely, Gary. It's not surprising at all. This is what we would expect in Indiana, that businesses would do whatever they can. It's not only the big companies, it's small organizations, and anything from supporting the nonprofits, supporting the local restaurants. A company might send a lunch over to the local hospital, to the ER, to take care of that staff that's working so hard. So again, having businesses do this, one of the great things about being in Indiana, we're sure that's going to continue.
Abdul, on the political side, at least if you look at the national level, there seems to be a level of cooperation or collaboration, kind of some good faith efforts to work together. Do you think that is going to last very long? There's been so much political division. Do you think that can be an outgrowth of this pandemic?
Well, if one of the effects of the coronavirus is more bipartisan people working together, then can we have another one, please? I mean, just be honest with you. No, it is good to see.
Maybe a milder version.
Yeah, maybe a milder version, because my wife will take the milder version to get me out of the house and away from her half the time. Yeah, no. I think it's good when lawmakers can come together, put aside their partisan differences, and actually work to get something done. We have that here. In Indiana, Democrats have made some suggestions about what the government should do. The Holcomb administration, by design or default, looks like they're listening. So, I always say for every one person we see on television hoarding toilet paper, there's somebody out there who is doing the right thing, for their fellow human beings.
I'll start with you on this, Abdul, but I don't want to give grades on this, but as you look at the approach the state, Governor Holcomb, the administration has taken, and the steps they've taken, some pretty substantial steps, how would you assess the response at the state level, at least, to the pandemic?
I think where we are right now, I give the Holcomb administration A-, B+. There's always a little bit of room for improvement, but at the same time, we are in uncharted territory. We've never had something like this before. I mean, even I guess the best you could cope is maybe like shortly after 9/11 we had that sort of period of uncertainty. But I would say at least right now, with the pandemic that we're seeing, I give them an A-, B+.
Tom, your take on the response?
It's interesting, Gary, and Dr. Box, our state health commissioner, explained this the other day in a call with our chamber executive committee. Indiana was fortunate we were not one of the first states that suffered the impacts of this. That was the good news. The bad news was the same thing. That means we had less access to some of these testing kits and some of the resources that are being used nationally. But I agree with Abdul. The state is doing a great job. They've outlined, they're moving aggressively, they're doing things, taking steps to help, not only business, but Hoosiers and citizens adapt as best they can.
15 seconds, but Tom, real quickly, what are Indiana businesses, small and large, what are they going to need going forward?
Well, we encourage, there's so many organizations out there helping. We encourage people to go to our chamber, to a resource page. We're linking them to all that information. It's just the support, and they just need things to get back as close to business as normal as soon as possible.
Tom Schuman with the Indiana Chamber of Commerce, Senior Vice President of Communications and Operations. Abdul Hakim Shabazz, the publisher at IndyPolitics.org. Thank you both for joining us with some great perspective as always. And I'll be right back after this. Stay with us. Coming up next week, we talk the state of IoT in Indiana with Fisher's IoT Lab founder John Wexler. Plus, we'll have the latest on the coronavirus impact in Indiana, the economy, and elsewhere. That's next week. Thanks for joining us this week. I'm Gary Dick. Go out and make it a successful week.
Inside Indiana Business with Gary Dick is a production of Grow Indiana Media Ventures with support from WFYI Productions.